Beware Maria. Maria talks about music, about education, about psychology and art, about sex and gender roles, about meaning and purpose, about things that are fun or interesting and can relate to each other. Maria has conversations with herself and with others, and she finds it a bit odd to talk about herself in the third person. Just beware and think about it. Today we've got musician Nik Barrell, who is. Where are you today, Nick?
London, yeah.
He's in London, and Nick is someone I recently met, and I thought it would be totally worth bringing him to Beware Maria for an interview because he's having a very interesting life and work. Nick, can you tell us a little bit about your musicianship and what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. I started playing when I was about 16, I guess, and then I started traveling when I was about 17 or 18. So they came pretty hand in hand. And I really love traveling and music, and I've been doing them together for most of my life. I was born in London, but I spent years and years traveling around everywhere, really. Brazil, South America, parts of Africa, North America, Asia, and as I went along, I did a lot of busking and a lot of kind of getting together with different groups. I played with Cuban bands, Brazilian bands, and nothing huge, but just in bars, in the street, on beaches, and it's been an amazing journey, actually. And I've been coming back to England all the time as well. I'm still based partially in Brighton and partially in London, and do projects here as well with musicians. And the last few years, I settled in a kind of mix of between Moscow and Kiev. Strangely, it didn't seem strange at the time. It does now, but I really love both those cities. And used to play in a kind of gypsy band in Kiev. Of which I've got some recordings that I'm going to play later on this show, and in a kind of blues band in Moscow, because there's actually a great blues scene there, which people are not very aware of. And I was doing that for quite a few years until, unfortunately, the war relationships got worse and worse, and eventually it led to the war that we're looking at now. And I left, obviously, and came back to London. And the latest thing is I've joined a Buddy Holly band. So I'm now traveling around England in a sort of 50s band, which is also great fun. But I certainly didn't expect to be doing that.
Nick, I'm now so curious about so many things that you explained just now in a nutshell, and most particularly on how did you decide at such a young age as you were 16 to start traveling after starting playing an instrument only for 1 year? How did it all happen?
Sorry, the internet's a tiny bit off. The internet's a tiny bit off. I'm afraid it's breaking up a bit. But
okay, I can say it again. I can repeat it. You want me to
yeah,
repeat?
it might be your Wi-Fi. Maybe it's a bit strange.
Okay. I wanted to know how did it all start? How did you had the idea, and how did you put this project in March at such a young age, 17, after having played an instrument since the age of 16?
Well, so I'm 46 now. So when I started traveling, there was no internet, or you could get books and things about places, but it was pretty remote. I had a friend who had been traveling in India, and they came back and showed me some photos. I remember one day, and yeah, she came back and she showed me some photos that she had taken. I mean, they were very basic photos. I remember one was a palm tree, and there was some cows and things, and I thought, wow, that looks amazing, and just booked a flight. I didn't know anything about it, and I took my guitar with me. I was quite shy then for playing with people, but I was off around India for about 3 or 4 months, just traveling on my own, and there was no, as I said, there was no internet. You couldn't phone back. I think I had one phone call back home at that time, so you really kind of disappeared. And there weren't so many people traveling back then as it is now. But yeah, I remember I had an amazing story in India. Actually, this will amuse you. I went down. I was right down in the south, near Tamil Nadu, and at the time there was a sort of, at least the Indian government considered them a terrorist group called the Tamil Tigers, and they wanted to sort of create the south of India to be a free state. Anyway, I was walking around that area with my guitar, walking from village to village, just sort of staying and getting more and more remote away from the main town. And I've been doing this for a few days, just kind of walking out into the woodland. And suddenly these two guys with guns came up to me and said, who are you and how did you find our secret hiding place? So amazingly, I had somehow found or come close to this Tamil Nadu terrorist hidden camp that the government had been looking for a long. Yeah, the government had been looking for a long time. I was like, so I don't know, 17, 18, something like that. Anyway, I sort of said to them, I guess just because I was sort of quite innocent at the time, I said, I'm not, I wasn't looking for you at all. I'm just a musician. I'm traveling here and I play music and, I don't, whatever, I don't mean any harm, sort of thing. And I must have come across okay, because the next thing they were like, okay, well, fair enough, was no problem, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, well, seeing as I'm here, is it possible to stay at your place, the camp, because I need a place to stay. Just when I think about it now, it was insane. But anyway, at the time, I was like, they sort of chat. Yeah, well, they chatted to each other a bit, and then they said, okay, you can, but we'll have to blindfold you getting there. And when you get there, you're going to have to do a concert for us tonight. And I said, fine, no problem. So I was blindfolded by these two Tamil Nadu terrorists. I mean, I didn't see them as terrorists, but I mean, that's a political thing. But, they were just people to me. Anyway, they blindfolded me and took me to their camp, and where there was, I don't know, it seemed like a lot of people, maybe 100, 200, 300 people, I don't know. Anyway, they offered me this place to stay. And as I agreed, in the evening, I came to do a concert. It was a lovely, warm Indian evening, in southern India. And I sat on this little porch, and played for all these sort of soldiers, with all their, hardened kind of soldiers. And I just played them anything I could think of and made up some songs. I was very into writing, so I was still into writing songs. So I just made up stuff, a lot of it, and just played them, whatever. And they loved it. They thought it was brilliant. And then at some point, they said to me, "Oh, we want to sing our Tamil Nadu freedom song, our like kind of national anthem." I said, "Okay, fine." So they all sung it to me, and I played the chords as best as I could underneath. I didn't really know what I was doing. Just an acoustic guitar, but they loved it. I think mainly they were happy I was having a go. And then they said to me, "Oh, you have to play me your English freedom, your freedom song, your sort of." And I thought, well, we don't really have
like everybody has a freedom song in every country.
Yeah, like there, and I thought, well, we don't, we don't really have a sort of
freedom song in this country.
But I don't think the English do. The Scott. Well, I couldn't think of one. You know what I mean? Because I suppose the English kind of historically have been the oppressors rather than the oppressed, if you know what I mean. So we don't really have a freedom song, you know what I mean? The Scottish do, and the Welsh do, and the Irish do naturally, but we don't, So I was like, well, I didn't want to say that because that, so I just said, oh, right, okay, yeah. So I, just want to be agreeable. So I was like, well, oh yeah, okay. So I couldn't think of anything. So I decided to sing them a Little Richard song.
Oh, what was it?
It was called "Good Golly Miss Molly." Yeah, I told it was our English freedom song, and it kind of goes, "Good golly Miss Molly, the show like the ball." Anyway, it's an old 50s song, and they all sang it and with great.
I have it here now. It says, "Good golly Miss Molly, when you're rocking and rolling, can hear your mama call."
That's it. Yeah. I think it's about a brothel, a prostitute place. So I got them all singing. They were all in the night as the last huge rousing. There was all these sort of Tamil Tiger terrorists with their guns waving in the air, singing the English freedom song of Good Golly Miss Molly, and it was just amazing and hilarious. And they Yeah, that was it. They were happy with that. They loved that, and they put me to bed.
I
And in
love
the
it.
morning,
Story.
yeah, I spent the night there, and in the morning, they blindfolded me again, took me back to where we started. I said goodbye and take care, and wandered back to the village. So that was when I was about 17, 18. Yeah, I don't know. And
Were you not scared of that situation?
I don't know. Now maybe I would be. I don't know. No, I think the weird thing is, I've done so much. I'm sure other people have traveled a lot. What happens when you've got nothing but your instinct, you know what I mean? Because there was no way to check anything or no way to get out of situations. Suddenly, quite often, you just know what to do. You just sort of know when it's going to be fine. You know which street to take. You just sort of know what to do, and you do it without any question. And I think when you're in that state of mind, everything just fits, and you can, it's just fine. It's when you start to question yourself, I think, that you get it, you go off, and things go wrong. Or when you don't listen to, you just kind of have to listen to yourself, don't you? I think. So it felt at the time I just knew it was the right thing to do, go and play them this concert. So it was great.
People are good?
People are good, yeah. Funnily enough, I remember I wrote that.
I love that song. It's one of my favorite ones for the ones I've heard from you.
It's funny. It was kind of a quick song to write. The point of it was, it was at a time when, as always, there was kind of endless negativity in the news and negativity everywhere. And I actually, the other thing was, I realized, when you're singing a lot and you're singing, you're kind of creating a kind of mantra. You're singing the same thing over and over again. That is a sort of mantra. So I decided to write a bunch of songs with an intentional kind of mantra, so that I was, if I'm going to sit here singing this every day, that I'm kind of putting a good energy into myself and energy outside of myself. So I wrote a bunch of them, which sort of culminated in an album eventually, more or less. But actually, they ended up spreading over a couple of albums. But "People Are Good" was one of them, and yeah, the idea is that obviously people aren't always good, but the thing is, it's like I think of a song as a snapshot, like a photograph, in a sense of, sometimes people can be good, and you can look at it like that. And there's moments when you go, wow, aren't people good? It doesn't happen all the time, but that's what that song is. And the thing is that moment, that snapshot, isn't celebrated very often. The moment where someone, cheats, or someone does this or someone does that, that's celebrated a great deal. That's sung about a great deal. But the feeling that you sometimes have where you think, wow, people are really good, that isn't sung about all that often. So I wanted to have at least one song about that feeling, because I think it exists.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how many times you would focus in the negative and not highlight the good things. I think it would be good to play one of your songs now. And I have one here that is called "I'll Be Your Man."
Well, that was hilarious. I went to, this was with, I got a couple of recordings. Yeah, this was with this gypsy band that I played with in Ukraine. Actually, they were the reason I went to Ukraine in the first place. An old bass player friend of mine from England had joined a Ukrainian gypsy band called Top Orchestra, and he kept saying, "Oh, you should come over." And so I went over and hung out with them. They used to live in this hilarious hippie house. They were proper crazy. There was about 30 people in the band, but they were all absolute crazy alcoholics, led by this sort of lunatic accordion player who was kind of a bit of a Fagin character. And they used to invite everyone to the gig to play, but usually about 10 people would make it because people get drunk and fall on the side of the road. And it was complete chaos, but it was great band. And I wanted to do a recording with them at some point. So I had written a couple of songs, and we went into the studio one night with them. And I honestly thought we're not going to get anything, because it was just chaos. We were there all night into the morning with amazing old violin players who suddenly turned out the woodwork, and all sorts of people. It was very beautiful and slightly chaotic, but somehow at the end of it, we had two really nice songs. And I'm really glad we do, because, that Kiev doesn't really exist anymore. That band doesn't really exist anymore. That world doesn't really exist anymore. I'm sure Kiev Kiev's still there, and it will be back, but it won't. there was a certain innocence at that time.
Shall we go for it now?
I should just say one interesting thing about that particular song before I talk about when I first got to Ukraine, because it's an interest in terms of traveling. The song was actually written in Cuba. This "I'll Be Your Man" that was written in Cuba, and it's got some you can hear in it some sort of Cuban influence. And then, as I said, it was recorded with this sort of Ukrainian gypsy band, and I'm really kind of a blues player. So it in English, obviously. So it ends up with this strange mix of kind of some Cuban chords and structures with a gypsy band playing on it and sung by an English bluesman. So that's what I think, moving around and traveling. I got very influenced by the guys I played with in Cuba, and then took that influence to Ukraine and played with them. So I think that's quite interesting musically.
That was beautiful, Nik. And can you let us know a little bit more about your stay in Ukraine?
Yes. So when did I first go to Ukraine was about 7 years ago, maybe, something like that, maybe 8 years ago. I first went to go and play, go and see. I was traveling all over the place in those days, and I was would just go and visit. What would happen? I'd meet friends, and then I'd meet new friends, and just and sometimes I'd try somewhere new. But I went to see this old bass player and live with him and play with his band, and then and I was sort of visiting Ukraine and playing with them on and off for a few years, alongside traveling other places, and then I met my current partner in Ukraine and ended up staying there a few years, like living there permanently, which was an amazing experience as well, But when I first went to Ukraine, it was still tense situation with Russia, but it wasn't as it is now. And I was, as I said, kind of going to Russia as well, as a lot of people were actually, and playing music there, and and then playing music in Ukraine. And I had hoped back in the day that we'd be able to do an album, with Ukrainian and Russian musicians, because I had great friends in both countries. But unfortunately, that the world went in a different direction. But that was my original hope.
Would you have stayed in Ukraine had it not been because of the war?
Yes. Well, actually, strangely, I was in fact going to go back to Russia for a few months originally, just before the war. But definitely, in terms of my original plan, was to sort of live kind of between Ukraine and Russia. Sometimes spending a bit more time in one, and sometimes spending a bit more time in the other. It would have been was sort of what I was doing. But as I said, unfortunately got harder and harder to do, and then eventually impossible. But who knows? I hope they will find their way out of this, terrible situation.
Did you wait to come back to England when you thought it was totally necessary, or did you plan it with time because you saw there was war coming?
No, we left it almost to the last minute. In fact, to tell you the truth, I mean, we were actually skiing in when all the in the news, when all the troops were kind of building up, and there was. It was the US was saying, oh, they're going to invade any day and all this, and nobody, I don't know, we sort of half believed it. But we were skiing. We decided to go skiing in Western Ukraine. That was my solution. I thought, well, let's go skiing because at least we'll be near the border and we can ski across. It seemed logical.
Yeah,
I thought, well, if they do invade, we could just ski over the mountain and we'll be all right. So we were sort of hanging out in this resort, called Bukovel, yeah, in Western Ukraine, and every day we were kind of checking the snow conditions and the news when you woke up, to see if there was a decent snowfall or if we'd been invaded, So it was a very strange time, and now looking back, it's absolutely bizarre. And in fact, I only left. We were planning to stay there. I got offered a job in England with this Buddy Holly band, and I thought, well, I'll go and do that for a month, and then hopefully it'll all calm down.
Oh.
But I came back to do that, and shortly afterwards, the invasion happened, and my partner broke her foot skiing. Not actually skiing; she was dancing. We were dancing in the evening, and she broke her foot. So she went to Germany, where her sister is. So we actually both left just before the war, but not because of the war. Actually, we didn't really think it was going to happen. She went to go and get some support for her foot in Germany, and I went to England to do a tour. And we never made it back. We've never been back since,
So what's next? What's the plan?
What's next?
You planning to stay here, making more music?
Yeah, I've been writing a little bit again, which has been lovely. Very beginning of writing, I tend to just sit down with a guitar and something to record on, which I'm using my phone at the moment, and just kind of try to get myself out of the way and just sort of splurge in, express myself in a way, just try and find, and then work from there, find melodies I like, find things I like, see what comes. But I haven't written for a while, just because life's been very chaotic. But actually, funny enough, this Buddy Holly tour is quite nice. I've got little times in between, so I'm doing it in my hotel room. Little bits of I take the guitar and started the whole process. So we'll see what happens. To be honest, I mean, I'm opening the doors to creativity and see what comes through. That's my plan.
Nik, people who want to listen to your music, what would you recommend to them?
When you said people don't want to hear my music, what would I recommend? I
You
thought
have
you were
made.
psychiatric help. No, what I'd recommend.
I mean, what links or where can they find it?
Sure. It's on Spotify. To be honest, the very nicest place I think is a place called Bandcamp, because that's where you can buy the albums and you can listen to all of the stuff's on Bandcamp. So if you go Bandcamp and then I think maybe there's some links in this.
Under your name, Nik Barrell.
But you can also find it on Spotify and YouTube, and there's a website, and but it's a funny spelling, Nikbarrell, and on Bandcamp it's Nikoles, like Nicholas Barrell, Barrell. Also there's a website which is just nickbarrell.uk, which has links to all those things, so that's another way to do it, nickbarrell.uk.
We are going to leave them today with the other song, which is Thank You, My Friend.
Also with the Ukrainian gypsy band.
It is done with the same band as before.
It is the same, same band, yeah. We did two recordings in that session that night.
What was the best thing about recording with them?
I think kind of now when I look back at it, we really captured a sort of moment in history, I mean, that little world of sort of underground gypsy music in Kiev, was really something, and and they were really at the heart of it. So it's I think we captured a little bit of history there for Ukraine, and I'm very glad we did. But at the time, it was just hilarious fun. It was just completely mad. Everyone was drunk, people were collapsing, but brilliant playing. That they're that cliche of sort of chaotic, alcoholic, genius musicians, and somehow a lot of soul, there's some beautiful trombone stuff on it, beautiful violin stuff on it. It's very soulful and very sweet.
We're going to close today with this song. Thank you very much, Nik, for being here. Nik, have you ever thought of writing a book or having a podcast telling your stories?
Say that. Perhaps I should. Perhaps I've reached an age where writing a book is time.
Your memories.
Yeah, I would like to write a book. Actually, it'd be fun. I might do that. Yeah.
I will definitely read it with great interest. Thank you so much, Nik, again for coming over, and take care.
Take care. Nice to speak to you.
Bye.